Welcome, beautiful soul. I am going to post this really quickly, so I'll be right back. Okay. All right. I forgot I'd already posted. I was going live in 10, so welcome. Welcome, welcome. Oh, hello. Welcome, Samantha. I'm so grateful that you're able to make it live. That is wonderful. So happy to see you. And I know I've switched the time around a bit here, and welcome, Yvonne. I just want to, I'm going to go ahead and speak into this really quickly, and then I'll probably speak into it a few more times. I do have a package that's coming. I was moving and shifting my schedule around because of that, because I do have to make sure it's inside. It's pouring down rain and it's been storming, so it's food. So I want to be sure that it's at least on the porch or inside, preferably inside. So I am sensing the intercept of that more than likely before the second half of the session. So if I do have to pause, I am just going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time. But I thank you all. I thank you all. So welcome. And of course, giving this just a few minutes to transmit and allowing those that are going to be able to join to drop in. Yes, so grateful that you made it to the live. Really excited, Samantha. And I will plug my headset in when we begin so that everyone can hear me better. Right now, I'm just letting my phone get charged fully, which should be there pretty much any moment. Welcome, Becca. And thank you all for your patience as I was shifting everything around. Normally, I would not be concerned if a package was arriving in the middle of this. But because of what the package is, I definitely would just want to be sure it's inside. Nobody else is here. So I'm just going to use the first half of the space to speak into some things, channel some things. So if you have a question, if you have anything that you would like me to reflect upon from the higher self, please drop that into the chat box now, the comment box. And of course, I'm already channeling, but I am going to shift fully and further into the cord in the channel. So, and I will be reflecting, of course, like I always do. I will be reflecting from that space anyways, but I do like to invite in, if anyone has any questions that they would like clarity on, if there's been something that's been in your awareness that you would like for me to speak into a bit further, then I would be more than happy to do that. So, and welcome to those that are joining. And if you are new, I know I've had a lot of new people coming in to my Instagram. So I just want to say, if anyone is coming in from there, welcome. My name is Ayawasi, and I come on here, approximately once a week, or once every other week, to provide a gathering, an activation. And even though I'm opening the space up and I am moving through the experience of the activation, I just want to remind each of you that I do not activate you. You activate yourself. We come together in the space of the higher self, and from that space, we co-create together. Welcome, Mina. So this means that I'm not doing anything for you. You are simply here joining and allowing yourself to be present to receive yourself. So you're not receiving me, you're receiving yourself. And It's a beautiful opportunity to, if you feel yourself depleted in any way, if you feel yourself feeling a bit overwhelmed in any way, it's a beautiful opportunity for you to be able to shift that energy. It's a beautiful opportunity for you to be able to disconnect from your mind and just let yourself flow into the space of higher self. When you go fully into the space of higher self, when you go fully into the channel and into the cord, you are held, you are supported. You're literally dangling on a string, on the rod. I know everyone has probably heard that terminology, the rod or the staff. The rod is quite literally a magnetic cord that runs directly from, as above, so below. It runs directly from right above your crown to right at your base, a little bit below the base. So it's very palpable, it's very powerful. And as soon as you basically hand your identity over to your higher self, this doesn't mean that obviously you get to connect to your higher self as a guide if you want. But what is invited here is for you to actually experience yourself as the higher self, so that you're not trying to receive something. You're in the space of the receiving, you're in the space of the offering. So you are the animator and you're the animation, and you can experience yourself as both. When you go into this space, you're quite literally floating. You're very weightless. You're probably going to experience yourself rocking back and forth, or side to side, or both. You could definitely experience your body moving in circles as your energy centers are opening and as your energy is following the flow or the oscillation of the higher stars. So there's going to be a lot happening, and your vehicle is an antenna. Your body is an antenna. So your body is going to be directly following the oscillation. And the more that you come into the cord, the more powerful the oscillation is. But it's not overpowering. The signature or the resonance of this space is of course very palpable. And I always invite others into the space to have this experience. So a few things that I would like to reflect upon. If no one has a question that they would like for me to reflect on, then I will drop in a few things. So there has been exchanges, as always, taking place in my group space. And a lot of what has been exchanged is in correlation with the recognition of the higher self. And one of the things that's been coming through is the seat of power. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me mention this. The seat of power is the identity of the ego. It likes to hold itself in a seat. You're always leading with this point of power. It's how you make your choices. It's how you decide what you are going to do. And because that seat of power is very focused on doing, everything or every aspect of you is funneled into what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And this also correlates even to receiving an activation, because when you're in the space of being, you no longer have anything to do. But the mind and the identity and the seat of power is so absorbed with needing to do something that it's always going to be looking for something to do, which means if you haven't fully given yourself permission to let go, it's going to come in and it's going to say, hey, look, we need to do this, or you need to be aware of this, or you know what I'm saying? So there's going to be an avenue for your mind to come in. So my invitation is to allow yourself to hand yourself over to the higher self, disconnecting from your mind, giving yourself the permission slip, the okay to know that you can go into this space fully and be held. that you can go into this space fully and experience differently. If you have a fear that somehow you're not going to be able to do it and your expectation isn't going to be met, then you're automatically barring yourself from the experience. It's not about whether you can or whether you can't. It's just simply a process of accepting that you get to know that you can and you get to know that you can't. And whichever one you're most leaning into is, of course, going to be the avenue of your experience. So, if nothing else, you could allow yourself to lean into the belief that you get to go into it all the way. Now, of course, you're still accessing through a belief, but at least you're closer to the space of freedom. Okay, I'm going to move up a little higher now. Moving higher. Okay, I'm just reviewing what is here in this space of connection, and I will transmit. I'm going to plug my earbuds up now. I have a lot of clearing, if you're not aware, a lot of coming through. You'll give me one moment as we're getting ready to go into this. One moment. Okay, thank you all for your patience on that. Was just reset a few things. Okay. Okay. So when we speak about reality and the seat of power, right now, as you're receiving this transmission, you have an opportunity to receive it, of course, from your seat of power, but you also have an opportunity to receive it from the seat of power. If you allow yourself to acknowledge the differentiation, then you are acknowledging that there is a space of experience. It's not separate, but it is different. This meaning that as we go into this space of experience, as we rise through the cord, we are going into the seat of power, the seat of the higher, the seat of the soul self, which means when you are in that space, you're transmitting the higher design into the lower simultaneously and redesigning your reality. A lot of times, if you have joined me on these activations and you have gone through the journey of the discovery, as I have gone through the process of uncovering and unfolding basically the different layers of reality, I have come to a place of understanding the transmission to have the opportunity to experience myself fully as the universe, as the planet, as the reality, as the trees, as the water. And because the water, I do want to go into that space of speaking about how we transmit the design. Our body, our vessel, our vehicle, whether it's the organic overlay, welcome, whether it's the organic overlay or whether we're speaking about the atomic light, we are speaking of an elemental access point. Welcome, Greg. So grateful to see you, my dear. Right now, everything that you are receiving in terms of your elemental water, the body of water that is internal, it is remembering everything. It is always upholding a space of memory, and then it is returning that memory to you. So if you are thinking certain thoughts, if you are feeling a certain way about something, everything in your vehicle, everything in your vessel is designed to relay to you what you believe and what you think about yourself and about your reality. because you are the reality. But you are so used to placing yourself in the condition of the reality being something outside of you. You are the reality and you simultaneously project your reality. Thus, meaning that you are, of course, the animation and the animator. In order for you to fully understand, of course, yourself as the animator, you must be willing to give yourself over to the higher self, coming into the space of not only receiving, but letting go of the perceiving, because you perceive whatever it is you believe. And when we go into this space, you don't have to believe that you're there, you just simply accept. It requires no layers, no archetypal systems. It requires nothing else other than you, the state of presence, and the unconditional acceptance that you hold. Now, in terms of the elementals and in terms of the elements, the way that your vehicle and your vessel relays the information is, we see this, and you all have heard me speak into this as well, especially with the LA fires and certain aspects of disaster. Disasters are directly relaying the memory and what we think and what we believe. And if you're always leading into your choices from the seat of power, the seat of power that's going to just always do things in a very specific way because it knows the outcome. This is why you do what you do, because you're comfortable in knowing that if you do something in a very specific way, you know what the outcome is going to be. But that's not really freedom. It might appear to be that way, but your vehicle, your vessel cannot transmit the currency of freedom because it does not yet understand it. And the only way for your vehicle, for your body, which is what is sensing and assisting in the reality, because you are the reality. And the only way for your vehicle to transmit and support you in the creation of your reality is for you to actually be in a space of freedom, of fully letting go. Because do your choices really matter? Kind of, but not really. What really matters is the energy behind the choice. It's very interesting the way that we experience choices. A lot of times, and even myself, I have approached choice as the seat of power itself, where if I choose this and I choose this, or if I choose differently, then I'm going to experience differently. But interestingly enough, the energy behind the choice cannot provide the true change, because the seat of power is still the one controlling the choice. The seat of power is your ego, it's your identity, it's what is holding you captive, it's holding you frozen. It's the one, it's the aspect of you that knows what it can do, it knows the outcome of what it can do, and it's always going to go into that space of choosing what it knows. And this is how we end up judging our reality. Is we know that if I choose this, things don't go very well. But if I choose this, things go pretty good. But why do things go bad and why do things go good? How can you experience good and bad? Well, because you believe in both. You believe in the negative experience, you believe in the positive experience. And because you believe in the existence of either or, you have the experience of either or. But there is a middle space. That middle space is freedom. And the middle space of freedom, it's not concerned with what is good and what is bad, because there is no experience of feeling bad and there's no experience of feeling good. There's no judgment. There just simply is. So, what is that middle space of freedom? Well, it's that part of you where you have let go. It's the aspects, it's all the parts of you, the identities, the things, the choices that you're making that are held captive, that are frozen in time, because you believe that if you just go and do this thing because you know you're going to feel good if you do it, then that's going to solve the problem. But there's no problem. There's just the belief of one. That's the judgment of reality. And that's where the mind loves to play. It loves to play. It loves to say, this is good, this is bad, and we need to do this because we feel good when we do this, and we feel bad when we do this. We're still going to do this, even though we know we feel bad, because we know we can do this and feel better. That's the game. But it also is a way of control. Not only are you controlling your reality, you're attempting to control an outcome. And the truth is that you're not only not controlling the outcome, you're manipulating the outcome because you're not free. So, my invitation for each of you that is receiving is to give yourself an opportunity to start shifting out of needing to choose something, but coming into the space of what you get to do. Well, if you just get to do something because it offers an experience, then there's no positive or negative. It's just, oh, I get to do this. I get to go for a walk. I get to go swim in the ocean. I get to eat healthier. I get to do these things, right? I get to participate in a conversation. Because in the conversation, you don't have to provide anything. You're not solving a problem, and you're not bringing spiritual wisdom, because you can't bring that into a conversation anyways. You can go into the ocean and transmit the power of just the presence of the ocean without your identity or your seat of power relaying what you think you need to be doing in the ocean in order to have the experience. Because then you're just layering your beliefs on top of the power that is actually being exchanged between you and the element to begin with. And if you give yourself an opportunity to simply be free in your expression, then you can just simply move in and out of every moment freely. There's nothing there to bind you energetically, which means there's nothing there to bind your vessel or your vehicle from regenerating, rejuvenating, and operating at its highest level of energetic exchange. Because when you are in a space of freedom, you're always receiving, which means your channel is always clear, which means your vessel is always relaying clarity, and your vehicle is always going to be a space that is free in its expression. It's not bound by any systems or beliefs. It's not frozen energetically. Now, I understand that there is that part of the mind that wants to say that that's difficult, that somehow, maybe I don't understand what it's like to be in your position, that maybe I don't understand what it's like to feel what you feel. But the truth is that the understanding is coming from a space that understands everything, because it has gone through the process of feeling, sensing, and relaying from both positive and negative as well. To going in the depths of the shadow and coming back into the highest of the light, going into the depths of the shadow, coming into the highest of the light. Even shadow work. There's a very interesting thing here that has been understood. And I've relayed this a few times to my group, and I'm going to speak it here in a session. In a one-on-one, the gentleman that was there had mentioned, well, the power and the work that he had done in order to receive himself at the higher self, which is absolutely true. The dedication and the investment in the work gives you an opportunity to understand who you are in the identity of you. So the shadow work and the light work gives you an opportunity to understand that identity of you. Because even when you're working as a light worker, it's an identity, right? I'm identifying with the light. If I'm doing shadow work, then I'm identifying with the shadow. It's still an identity. Now, you can bring that into the central space, accepting, acknowledging that that is absolutely true. But what came through from the space of higher super was that it also doesn't matter. We have a tendency to place a lot of need and necessity on the work, which what ends up happening is we identify so much with the work that we remain frozen and we don't actually let go. If I'm a light worker, then I need to do the work of a light worker. If I'm working in the shadow, then I've got to do the work of the shadow, or else I will not be able to understand the light. The only way that I can understand how to better approach the shadow is by going into the light, right? Going back and forth between polarities. Absolutely true. It also doesn't matter. Because when you connect fully into the space of the higher super, everything is already unified, which means you don't have to do anything. So there comes a point where not only is the work, of course, appreciated, it's always appreciated, it's always unconditionally accepted, but you also have an opportunity, if you give yourself permission to hand yourself over to the higher self and have an opportunity to let go of what you think you need to do, giving yourself that key, that access point to greater freedom. And a lot of times we're really afraid to get those keys, that key to freedom, because we're afraid that somehow we won't have control, that we won't know what to do, that maybe everything that we're doing is somehow going to be rendered invalid. But you see, coming into the space of the higher doesn't render anything invalid in the lower, it enhances it. It gives you an opportunity to operate from a space of freedom while simultaneously understanding yourself as the reality, not separate from it. So, my question as we begin to shift into higher receiving for each of you is allowing yourself to recognize any of the spaces that you are attempting to control by choice. You're enacting your choice, but you're also reenacting choice from a space of knowing the outcome. Giving yourself an opportunity to realize the attachment that you have to knowing what you're going to get. And also an invitation to allow yourself to let go of every bit of that. Because when you are fully present and available to access the higher self, you have no clue what you're going to get. That's the beauty. You don't know what's going to come through, and yet you understand everything that does. Giving yourself an opportunity to be the transmitter, the designer, instead of trying so hard to need to fix something. That's what the mind really likes. It loves being able to be recognized. It loves when it can show up and show out. It loves being able to step in and take control, because that's the condition of the mind in its sleep state, when it's still asleep and it's not being utilized from the higher space. And the only way that it can still operate from the sleep state is if the higher is not being given permission to walk in and to basically translate, and transmit, to provide the transmission of operations, if you will. And the transmission of operations isn't something that you need to understand. You are the operation, which means all you are doing is existing and allowing. Everything else is just icing on the cake. Everything else is just a discovery of the universal libraries. Everything else is just a journey in remembering. But this is the basis of that, is being able to allow your mind to be something that is supportive and not distractive. And the only way that the higher mind can actually begin to operate in that way is when you relinquish control, because the control part, the control mechanism, that's the sleep. That's the sleeping mind. It's programmed to control everything. It's the only way that the reality can operate is if it's in control. Fight or flight, survival. Having control means I can fly away if I want to, or I can put up a fight if I need to. And it always is wanting to hold on to control, because that's the safety mechanism. You know the outcome. You're comfortable when you know what's going to happen. But that's also fighting against your existence as the higher, because your existence as the higher is always rewriting the reality from a space of full support, full love, full acceptance. There's nothing that's going to be transmitted through you as the animation that is not in full support and in full love, which means you get to experience that at all times. But you have to be open to that. Okay. So, giving yourself permission, allowing yourself to hand over the keys of control. You don't even need to hold your body up. When you enter the space, you are held. So giving yourself permission to begin floating. Declaring, I'm moving out of lower into higher. That's just simply your declaration. You're letting go of your identity. So moving out of lower into higher. There's an opportunity where you get to experience the movement of your body. And as soon as you come into the connecting point, you will begin, like I am right now, just rocking. I'm held up. I don't need to hold myself up. Because the truth of the image, if you will, the organic overlay, is that we are always projecting straight on. We see everything that's right here in front of us. That's all we see. But see, your reality is coming from a multitude of dimensions, which means if you just turn to the side, you can actually see the infinite ranges, the infinite layers, the infinite vibrational magnitude of the reality. But see, your eyes don't see, they project. So when you're looking around and you're viewing, you're projecting. Now, with eyes closed, it calls your projection inward instead of outward. But because the eyes are still in operation, a lot of times they will still energetically want to project, even if it is internal. So as we go through this experience, I'm not saying don't try not to project images, but just allowing yourself to hold the understanding that you're projecting what you know or what you think you know. There's nothing good nor bad about that. It is. And as you come into the space, feeling yourself suspended, And just taking a few moments, allowing each of you to find yourself in a space of suspension where you have fully relinquished your identity and your seat of power. And you are existing from the space of the animator. So giving yourself permission to expand beyond your body while simultaneously being aware of your body. Being aware that your vehicle and your vessel is sensing and relaying. But you are more than just the body, you are awareness. Your awareness isn't trapped in the body. Now, another key of, or another invitation would also be to not also just take off and go somewhere away from the body that is not present in the now. A lot of times people have a tendency to go deep into trance, but further into sleep. Allowing yourself to be consciously awake and aware, but simultaneously remaining present now, in the here, in the now. You're aware of what's happening around you. And that way you don't venture off somewhere. Remain here, because that would be the mind. The awareness is beyond the body, but it's present simultaneously. Okay, opening and activating Earth Star. And if at any moment I need to pause and step away to intercept the package, you all are perfectly capable of being in a space of experience for a few minutes. So I'm going to thank you all ahead of time for allowing me to do so. The weather is providing a very interesting experience for the intercept of the package. Bringing yourself into the heart space, experiencing the expansiveness of the heart, being aware of the open, expansive experience of the Earth Star. Being aware and allowing your awareness to be engulfed in the sensations, but not attached to remaining there. And opening, activating Soul Star. Opening, activating Sun Star. Opening, activating Cosmic Star. Opening, activating Universal Star. And opening and activating Spirit Star. And activating the orbit of each of the stars. Now we are going to take a moment here as we are beginning to transmit from the higher stars. Just receiving the transmission, and then we will move higher and transmit higher. Just allowing you from the space of awareness within the stars to transmit and to also experience the palpable power of what is coming in. and moving higher. I'm also going to have each of you please declare, I accept, I allow, and I accept, I receive. Okay, opening, expanding. There's a very powerful, well, let us just say that each of the stars are, of course, all the higher stars are very powerful in their magnetic currents. So right now, the crown and the third eye are undergoing the process of connection, attuning, acclimating, dialing in. So right now, we are dialing into the highest star, dialing in. Remember just to relax your body. You don't have to hold yourself up. Allow yourself to be dead weight. You are not going to buckle under the weight, nor is the pain going to increase. If you can relinquish the control, then you can experience the freedom of letting go. If you ever have any pain or difficulty in the experience of the image, the overlay, remember there's also a belief that you must exist in that space. You get to be free. Okay, opening and expanding the channel and moving higher. Expanding the heart space. And moving higher. Stars are supporting, but we are accessing fully through the central cord. Allowing yourself to connect into your higher as your higher. And you get the opportunity to experience the expansiveness and also how you are relaying into the lower reality. Of course, it's always happening simultaneously, but in this space, you get to be there and you get to be the one that is aware that you are doing that. Instead of just calling up to the higher and requesting, you actually get to move into, intercept the higher, and transmit. Now, from this space, we redesign reality. The image is redesigned, and it is redesigned in the image of the higher. And what's very beautiful about coming into this space is that the mind doesn't control how you feel. In this space, you're the animator, which means the mind isn't controlling how you feel. When you are the animator, then you are free from the mind. Giving yourself the permission slip to let go. Now, although it's not needed for us to follow through in the way that we are about to, we are going to provide an enhanced sense of the activation. And we are doing this for those that are maybe not fully able or fully present. Doesn't mean that you're not trying, but I do understand that the process of connection, sometimes the mind likes to get in the way, right? So let us open up the connection to the mind and give it an opportunity to bring something in that can expand the senses instead of prohibiting the senses. So right now, acknowledging your mind, accepting, allowing it to be present as a tool of support. Giving it permission to operate in harmony because it already is. Giving it permission to operate simultaneously because it already is. And that also gives you the permission to connect higher, letting go of any expectations of the mind playing games anyways. And declaring the mind is here to support and assist. This is declared from the higher, the seat of power. This declaration, serving, and transmitting the higher design, opening, activating the nervous system, opening the gateways of the nerves, opening and expanding, clearing the pathways. Clearing, clearing, clearing the pathways in preparation for receiving. And rising higher. from this space, we acknowledge the design. And calling forth all gene expressions that mirror the design, receive the design, and anchor the design. Beginning with 17, we have some familiar gene expressions coming in. This is the next layer. So calling forth gene expression 17. Opening gene expression 17 and receiving the higher design. Powerful. I felt it come in right down the middle. It was a parting. There was a parting of reality. Everything came in and engulfed the body. Now moving through the feminine side, redesigning. And through the process of redesigning, let us call forward the release of any lower designs of reality, clearing the projections from the ocular nerve, and calling for a clearing of any lower realities, lower levels of reality. Again, these are most notably known as those that reflect disease, sickness, disharmony, or imbalances, the experiences of an imbalanced reality, which is in turn something that when you feel sick or unwell or you feel imbalanced, you then try to fix it. You then try to heal it. This is also a part of the illusion of duality. It gives you something to do, yes. So giving yourself an opportunity to allowing for the clearing on the feminine side and the release of the lower realities. You may feel a suctioning in, a pulling in, or a suctioning out that is natural. Clearing. Clearing. Whew. That's an intense pocket again on that feminine side. Ooh. Clearing. Releasing. Again, we have to remember that we are the reality, right? We're transmitting all the time. You know, we're not solid, we're not organs in the way that we think we are, and yet we project that which we think we are. The realities are basically transmissions or designs based on what you think, based on what you believe, and also based on the conditions that are designed through the collective experience. I know many of us in the feminine vehicle experience monthly cycles, monthly bleeds, or at least you have. even if you no longer do, but you think you must experience that every month, right? There's also a belief of the necessity of this, of procreation. Again, we must also remember that life giving birth is an illusion. It's as much of an illusion as death is, but it's a part of the reality. It's a part of that version of reality. If you believe and you think you die, then you do. If you believe that you think that you're born, then, well, that's what you experience. If you believe that you're giving birth to a child, then you will go through in your nervous system. Everything within you will relay what you think and what you believe based on the conception and the contraception, the receiving of the design through the masculine. But you don't actually receive anything. True receiving is internal, not external. You come into this reality through your court of consciousness. You walk into the reality. Everything else is a projection of being asleep. You're asleep, but you have the illusion of being born. You have the illusion of being alive. You have the illusion of living, and you have the illusion of death. But they're all illusions. They're layers of projected reality. It's the paradox of reality. The higher realities are internal through the cord. The awareness that you are transmitting not only the design, but that you don't have to die because you don't. You don't have to give birth or be born because you don't. But you get to experience that reality if you choose. Which means even the experience of getting older is a projection of the design. Which means the hormones, which are the creators of the reality, the lower hormones, the expressions of the genes are creating based on what you believe. If you believe that you must feel a certain way because of your environment, like if you believe you have allergies, if you believe that you have asthma, if you believe that you have food allergies, if you believe that you get sick or there's a disturbance upon eating something or breathing something, you have trapped yourself in the simulation and you are still asleep. You're not awake. Again, paradox. You think you are, but you're still operating through the conditions, which are asleep. From this space, we are releasing the designs, but this doesn't necessarily mean that just because the designs are being released, that you are open to experiencing the higher reality. Give yourself the permission slip to no longer operate through being asleep, which means the choices of control where you know the outcome. You think you know the outcome. You think you know what's going to happen. You think you know you're going to feel better. You think you feel bad. In order for you to hold something other than just your experience right here, right now, you must be willing to let go of what you think you know and letting go of the approach of the choice. Because there is no such thing as sickness. There is no such thing as birth, and there's no such thing as death. They're all illusions. Remember, you are the reality. And either you are emitting your reality from a state of higher or you're still asleep in the lower. opening and expanding, fully receiving, continuing the receiving of Gene Expression 17 as it moves through and opens the opportunity of higher expression through the feminine, allowing it to come into and move into the masculine. And just from this space, I'm going to just simply allow the experience to be. Receiving the layers of the higher design. Transmitting. Okay, everyone, I'm going to just take a pause here. UPS is here, so please give me a moment. Thank you guys for your patience. Okay, thank you. Okay. You guys are superstars. Thank you. Okay, reconnecting. Okay, expanding. Okay. And gene expression 27 is stepping forward. So opening up and allowing 27 to also be an anchor of the design. Opening, accepting, and anchoring through gene expression 27. Yeah, that one's very palpable coming in. Another layer. This one feels this one has a much larger orbit to it. I can sense how these are open. So each one opens into the next. 17 opens into 27. 27 will open into the next one. So each one, like petals to a flower, are operating in support of the one above it and the one below it. So these are operating as a system, but that system is not set. Even though we're familiar with gene expression 17, and even though we're familiar with gene expression 27, it is different. It is not the same as it was when it came through last time. These expressions are always evolving, always shifting, always changing. That's because that's exactly how our higher self operates. There's nothing that's ever the same. Not even the design of the higher self, if you will. It's a set design, but that set design is simply just, it's not identity. It's set. It doesn't go lower. It can't go lower than where it is. That's the set design, but it can extend itself into and pretend that it is. But it will always, the higher self will always be the higher self. And it's also a continual movement of energy. It's not set in an image. Calling forward the next gene expression. I'm hearing, are all three of those necessary? What is the main? 42. So 42, stepping forward. Opening and expanding within 42. Wow, very, very beautiful, very powerful. And receiving the higher design. Opening up in the experience of 17, 27, 42, anchoring into in the expansion, anchoring into each of these, the design and expanding. Expanding to full capacity. Beautiful. And calling for the clearing and release of any lower realities in connection with the masculine. Any lower projected layers, clearing these from the ocular projection. Now, these can only fully clear from your system of belief if you no longer choose to believe in them. This doesn't just happen here. I mean, obviously, if you choose to continue going and doing things and operating from the space of slumber, and you continue to do things in the same way, choosing in the same way, then you're not allowing yourself to be in the freedom of the higher. Releasing and clearing the lower realities. Allowing 42 to openly expand and express. Allowing 27 to fully open, expand, and express. Allowing 17 to fully open, expand, and express. And then calling forward 72 as the unifying anchor. And there's that very beautiful seat. In terms of speaking of a reflection of the seat of power, this is what 72 is reflecting. Because it's coming right under our butt. It very much feels like you're sitting on a seat of magnetic support. It's just holding your image up. It's holding your reality, which means 72, this vibrational sequence, isn't just the numbers. Neither is 42, neither is 27, neither is 17. They're not just the numbers. But the beautiful thing about the numbers is they are a vibrational opportunity for the design to express itself, not only in harmony with the sequence, but numbers are fluid. Numbers are free. Giving the design an opportunity to be free and fluid. We give a lot of meaning to numbers, a lot of identity. This sequence means this sequence means that, this number means this number means that. But in its truest and purest, it's simply just vibration. It's a sequence. And the design, if you will, is the operating mechanism. It's basically a gateway for the continued transmission of the higher. So through these sequencings, through the gateway of the higher, there's a recognition between the higher and the reality of what we say is the lower. You're transmitting through the gateway of the expressions. Moving higher. And calling in cosmic cords of connection. And calling these cosmic cords in, allowing them to come in through the cosmic star. Receiving through the cosmic star, receiving the cosmic cords. And just simply allowing what I feel these cosmic cords provide, just like any cords of reality. We have to remember we are still in the animation. So the animation is just having fun with the reality. You don't need it. Just like you don't need to understand or know about your past lives, because there's no such thing as them being past. Everything is here now. But the mind likes to play in the field of remembering past lives, right? But all realities and all layers, just as was expressed, if you're not looking straight on and you look at it from a slightly different angle from the side, you can see everything simultaneous to now, and it's all happening right now. It's not happening in the past, nor is it happening in the future. It's all right now. There's no other time but now. But the very interesting thing about the extensions coming into the lower realities is the perception of time. The perception of timelines. Looking at everything straight on instead of zooming out, coming above, and just seeing everything as it is right now. Which also means that you don't have to pull from past lives to activate anything in terms of your gifts right now. From the space of your higher self, you are all of it, which means you exist as all of it. But you get to play in that game if you would like to. And from this higher space, we would like to just simply take a moment, reverberating the magnetic fields and the sensations. one thing we are aware of from this space is that even the gene expressions aren't needed, but they are a transmission, an opportunity to experience a more crystallized reality. They are an opportunity to experience the gateways, as they are gateways themselves. They are, you can think of it as another tool. But tools are never needed. We get to use them if we would like, but we don't have to. It's an opportunity for us to be aware of this, because we tend to focus on what we think we need to access or what's necessary for us to access, and then we get very caught up in that. Another game of the mind. But from the space of the higher, you are free, which means you understand and you recognize that it's simply just another opportunity to experience. And each of those expressions are relaying and they are receiving. And because you already have a system in place of expression that is under the weight of the identity, this gives it an opportunity to break free from that, to experience something other than that, higher than that. And for some, that might be the cap, if you will. That might be the level of reality that they need. It's almost, we sense it almost like a safety and security net. Like if I know my genes can express something healthier, then somehow I will be healthier. But the gene expressions are not transmitting anything specific. They're just gateways. They're expressions, so they're always changing. But they're just gateways. So opening and expanding. And let us just fully open the channel, and let's just hold the experience without the expressions. So just opening and expanding the channel and receiving the design as the design, recognizing yourself as the design. Now you can receive a design from the higher, beyond the higher self, the superconsciousness monadic. But we can only receive a very small portion of that in the extension. And you can even feel it coming in. It's quite powerful. So holding the space of the higher self and only allowing what is just absolutely necessary for the experience and nothing more, as to not overwhelm. Even though we do not hold the belief, I am aware that some do. So experiencing yourself as the design. Just very powerful. Yes. Experiencing yourself as the design. Feeling the intense magnetic currents, the ever shifting oscillations. And now we will experience ourselves as transmitting the design into the lower. Transmitting the design into the lower. Because you are the lower and the higher simultaneously, you may experience some reverberations of this. Transmitting. Transmitting. Feeling, sensing, and experiencing the power of you as the higher. Experiencing yourself floating, very weightless here. You're just bobbing back and forth, rocking. You can experience yourself simply as the biofeed. And of course, as the higher consciousness that is relaying into the biofeed. Redesigning it from all angles through all space and time. You're not just this identity in this life, but you believe you are. It's very funny that we think we are this image and this name and this body. It's very funny. We think we are what we think we are. And of course we are, but we're not at the same time. And so now let us begin to decompress a little bit, walk down. Decompressing. There's a very, very, very powerful redesign that's happening right now. Those of you that are still collectively here, that have been collectively communicating this, I just want to relay the power that is here. Because this is being relayed not only through you as an individual, but as a collective. We are here gathered as a collective. It is very palpable, very palpable. The design is clearing through the lower sacral root. There's a lot being flushed. Now, it's been flushed. This has been in motion. But what's happening right now, it's coming from a higher vantage point. Very important. Because even some of the beliefs of what was happening was holding the energy trapped in that oversoul. Now you can feel the movement. You might feel some nausea. There's a big chunk that has been gutted and is redesigning from a higher collective oversoul right now. Because we have come together and we are focused energetically from a space of higher awareness, higher realization. We're not trying to fix anything. We're just allowing. And when we allow, we are aware of what we are allowing. We transmit that in the reality becomes more free. It's not forced. It's a very open, expansive space when you're not trying to do anything, when you're not trying to fix something, when you don't hold a belief any longer that you have to fix the earth or that you have to bring in a new earth or that there even is a new earth. For the consciousness of the earth simply just is, just as you are as the higher, you just are. But we have many collective realities that operate through many shells of belief, which hold those projected paradigms. But those are also, for those of you that are holding the awareness right now, they're dissolving. This is really intense, the feminine. A lot of feminine energies were holding that captive. A lot of feminine leaders are holding that captive. And I don't mean just the woman identity. I mean feminine as in pouring into the feminine paradigm, the goddess, the feminine, representing the divine feminine, which actually holds the energy in the paradigm of the belief. It holds it in that layer of reality. It's really, oh, it was paralyzed. That's what my left arm feels like. It's paralyzed. Feels stuck. I feel yeah, I'm frozen. That left side is frozen. Okay, going higher. Whew. Wow. Wow. I'm not for sure if you guys are experiencing that, but the reverberation of being frozen is extremely intense and palpable. Like my entire left side is numb, as if I've just had a seizure or a stroke. Feels like a stroke. Frozen. Yeah, it feels like a stroke. Okay, rising higher. Transmitting through the feminine. And let's just take a moment here just to transmit. You don't need to transmit anything specific. You're just transmitting from a space of freedom. Just being aware of the feminine, that's all. You do not need to send anything. You do not need to be grateful or anything. Just be free in this moment. Do not send anything other. Just allow yourself to accept. There we go. She's moving. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. She's moving. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. Very interesting. The design was frozen. As we began to decompress, that locked space of frozen, I could feel were those holding identity there. And as we decompress, what's happening is we're coming into connection with, we're intercepting different tones of reality, different tones of our own creation. We're intersecting these from an individual collective scale. So we're intercepting from at any point in time where we have projected that belief and we have experienced that belief and we have gone into the shell of reality, and maybe we have freed ourselves from that shell and we are no longer operating from that specific belief, but of course we've believed in it. We have fed into that reality. So I do feel that us allowing ourselves to acknowledge that, pull out, and then just simply come back in for a moment, because we're moving down anyways, to relay from a space of freedom is very powerful. We're not trying to project your sense of gratitude or your anything that you think is necessary there. You just simply allow. Yes, now the magnetism has come back to the third eye crown. Beautiful. Okay, decompressing. This decompression gives you an opportunity to move down through your reality and review. Just simply experiencing yourself moving back down your cord. Decompressing. Decompressing. Reviewing the reality. Beautiful. Okay. Just checking yourself at the door each and every time. Reviewing. I feel a lot of people are in this space right here. Yeah, this is where a lot of you are. Beautiful. Decompressing. Okay, now fully coming into the image and the redesign of the image. Landing into the design. Coming in. Anchoring. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on this experience. Thank you for allowing yourself to be present and to receive. I am so grateful that, as always, that we have this opportunity together. And it's really amazing when we give ourselves an opportunity to be present in this connection. Thank you for receiving. So as you come in, just maybe I'm feeling some experiencing the landing. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful reverberation there. Feels very clear. Ooh. When you express sound, you can also experience the reverberation through your reality, through your energy bodies, and all of you, all layers, all dimensions. It's a good opportunity to experience the clarity of the reverberation. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yes, that feels very clear. Thank you. Thank you for receiving. Yes. I would like to reflect too, because I know a lot of times people offer toning, and they want to tone in order to activate. That is an experience of reality, but your tone is directly correlated to your channel. So if you are existing in the channel, as the higher, then you are automatically activated. You're automatically relaying the tone. You do not need the tone to relay your activated state. Now, I have gone through that process myself. Working through those layers of reality and trying to tone, trying to discover how I tone. It was almost like it gives the mind a job to do. It gives you an opportunity to experience sound and light with this job, if you will. But you can release the job. You get to experience the reverberation, but with the invitation that you are the transmitter automatically. And so the relay of that, of the sound, should simply just be a reverberation of your own tone, right? You already carry that tone. You do not need to hear the tone in order to carry the tone, because a lot of times your own hearing has yet acclimated itself to the sound that is present through you. A lot of the sound, a lot of the tones, a lot of the sounds, a lot of the hurts, a lot of that is what we have discovered, yes, but there's much more beyond the range of hearing that we simply can't just tone to because of the sound. We just express. If you just open and express, then you are tone. You are toning. You're a toning. So completely vibrating everything. Just open, express, allow, and just feel the clarity of the reverberation, because you are the tone. And you are vibrating my headset. What's very interesting, I will relay this. If I tried to tone, or if I tried to make that sound from a space of what I thought I was supposed to sound like, it would have been difficult for me. I would not, it comes through, it relays very differently. So a lot of times we try, right? We try to sound, we practice sounding a certain way, or we practice, we try, right? But from this space, if you just the opening and allowing, there's nothing behind it or before it. It's just open and expressive. And therefore, your channel is simply an open, active space of your vibrational expression. And so you do not have to try, and you don't have to hear. It's simply you get to, but you don't have to. So, and also, too, I would like to invite in, as we're just coming in here, I know a lot of people believe that light language or toning is somehow a way to bypass the mind. but I also have found that to be a belief, because words, language, light language are one and the same. A communication in light is no different than a communication in words. They're carrying the energy of your vocal expression. If you believe words limit your expression somehow, then you have trapped yourself in the belief of that, because words are free. So this is an opportunity and an invitation for you to allow words to be simply just that. They get to be as free as light language is. Because language can either be barred by definition and barriers of cultural understanding, or just simply energy, which means words can always relay the energetic expression of you, unless you, of course, are still in the defining space, where the only way that you can understand me is if I define my experience and I relay and explain to you. And that's, of course, the mental game. But the channel is an open expression, it's an open flow, and everything flows freely. And through the process of expressing freely and openly, you are automatically anchored into the space of understanding. And there is nothing that limits you, nor is there anything that limits anyone from understanding you other than themselves. So I am just so truly grateful to share in this and experience this with each of you. And for those of you that have been here and have maintained the focal point of this, thank you. Again, I am experiencing a very powerful relay. As always, anything that is coming from the higher space of connection is redesigning the reality or the format of reality. And the vibrational layers of this transmission are very free. Giving way to a greater reverberation of waking others up from the slumber of the mind. Because there are many, even on the spiritual path, that are still asleep. Such is the paradox. Absolutely, Mina. You always have another opportunity. But thank you for being present. And as we close this out, I'm just going to review a few things that is passing through. Yeah, very powerful shift. There was a very powerful shift energetically that was really heavy on the feminine, as you heard me express, frozen in a need to control. And I felt myself as having a stroke. So it's like the nervous system and everything was just completely frozen, and it was stuck. Couldn't move, couldn't experience anything differently. The reality was very frozen. So for those of you, especially not just in a woman vehicle, if you will, which is an identity marker, but the feminine, there's still a lot of imbalance in the feminine, because the seed of power that the feminine believes that it holds is also freezing the feminine. And then there is the woman identity, if you will, that's overpowered through the belief of the masculine, and it's shadowed by the feminine. There's a lot of polarities I'm experiencing of these realities. These are the realities of light and dark, or shadow, right? Light and shadow, where the genes are expressing the shadow and the light, but from a space of believing, um, which is, of course, dualism, and dualism is an illusion. There's always unity. So even as we're expressing this, we've moved into a space of centralized unity, even more so. Yes. So allowing yourself to be aware of your seat of power. Your seat of power is what you believe you are, and what you believe you feel, and what you believe you experience. And if you're consistently frozen in that seat of power, then you're basically paralyzed. Not only is your reality not moving, but there is the illusion of reality moving, because you're always doing stuff. You're doing all day, you're making all these choices that you think are affecting you, but you're still asleep, right? You're still asleep because you think, as we all do, right? But you think that the choice affects your reality. Now, that's the causal reality. The causal reality is where, through your soul star, you inherit the effect of your choice, and that it is relayed back. And it's relayed back through your reality based on your identity of the soul. But your soul is only identified through the process of choice, which, interestingly enough, your choice doesn't matter. There's only one choice: acceptance. Everything else is an illusion. Your choice doesn't matter. If you believe that your choice carries weight, if you believe that this is good and this is bad, then you have dictated judgment. You've placed judgment, right? Again, that's still being asleep in the mind, judging the reality and judging the feeling and judging the experience, but you're stuck. Yes, yes, I felt that as well, Samantha. Absolutely. Frozen and burning. The fires of the subatomic, the fires of the light, if you will, because we can say it's like a fire. It's always moving. We could take, actually, it's the all elements together, which is the quintessence, the fifth element. And this is where everything comes together. But the quintessence isn't able to express itself through either line, because either line, both lines, I really feel the feminine has identified itself as being the seat of power, as the one that's the change bringer. But there is no separation between feminine and masculine anyways, which means there's always unity. So there's still dualism through belief, which is creating the realities of imbalance and polarity, which means the feminine is the only one that can bring the change, and the masculine must follow that somehow. So I just bringing this into the awareness, because not only that, but even the belief of the choice, that's what creates cause and effect, is because I believe my choice carries the weight of my choice, which is why a lot of people carry that energetically in their system and in their vessel, is because they believe that there is some sort of judgment that is being relayed. And that's not the case. The only judgment is in your mind because you believe it. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 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 I love that though. But the experience through the nervous system, a sense of freedom. And that's the just in that moment, what was being experienced was a moment of releasing control by how the subconscious controls the nervous system into the space of how the higher consciousness exists as the nervous system. The higher self is the nervous system. It's not controlled. And so if we're always in a space of feeling something a very specific way, transmuting energies, all of these things, we're still in sleep, we're still in slumber, we're still trying to do something, and we're still, because it gives us a sense of control, right? If I can do this, if I can transmute that, I have something to heal. And I do feel those that identify like as light workers and such, it almost is an identity crisis if you say, well, that's just a layer of reality. You're not really a worker of light. You exist as the light. It's almost can be an identity crisis for some, because they heavily identify with the business aspect of that, of needing to do something, of needing to heal someone. And then, of course, that reality is going to bring those in that believe that they are healed by someone. And this is an opportunity, I feel, just to allow others to release themselves to a greater degree of understanding that you don't require healing because there's nothing wrong. There is nothing that is affecting you except your belief. And I'm speaking from my experiences of myself as well. As I have relinquished control and I experience myself as the seat of power, not a seat of power, where I have to go into this space to experience this, where I have to go into this space to fix this, where this choice is affected by this, and therefore there's always a battle of reality. There's so much freedom when you're no longer in a space of control or being controlled. There's also this sense of boredom that comes from the controlling mind, like, oh, well, if I'm not doing something, then I'm going to be bored and I'm not going to feel alive and I'm not going to feel complete and I'm not going to. So that's always feeding and cramming everything in. It's because it's afraid it's going to miss something. And then your nervous system is overloaded with everything that you're cramming into your system, and you're just cramming all this information in all the time, and then you crash and you wonder why you crash, because you're constantly feeding the mind instead of just existing. You don't even need meditation. You don't. Meditation is designed to give you an opportunity. It's a tool like anything else to assist you in understanding how to come into the connection. But once the connection is made, it's always there. You don't require it. Mm, absolutely. Yes. And it's interesting, the feeling of fear in the solar and sacral, because I do feel that's the fear you're holding on to. Yeah. There's fear of yours that's being held there. Yeah, I almost couldn't say it. It just contracted my throat. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. There's a closing off. Yeah, there's a closing off from yourself. Absolutely. Um, because I'm connected to Mina beyond just this live. We are connected in the group space. So having the awareness of what you move through and the design, um, yeah, there's a lot of need to control. Absolutely. And at the same time, you experience what's on the other side of needing to control the body, which is everything just moves through and it opens up, right? And it's free. Um, and what the different layers as we move higher, each layer reflects something different, right? So in order for me to even have an awareness of how the feminine was frozen, I had to come down a little bit. I had to bring myself down because in the higher space, there's no separation of reality. You are reality and you are all of existence, which means energy is always moving and there's nothing that's stuck. There's nothing that's frozen. There's nothing that exists as anything other than consistent change and movement. And so it actually requires coming down a little bit to connect into those spaces of belief and those spaces of reality that are holding captive, that are energetic literally where each person is holding themselves captive in their reality, because they believe something so dearly that it's freezing them. It's freezing their image. And it's why you feel pain, right? The one thing when we go into the space that's available is I do not feel my nervous system. I do not feel my physical organic. When I'm fully in that space, I am. I just simply am. I don't feel anything other than what I am. And I speak this because it's an invitation for everyone. It's an opportunity and an invitation to understand of what's available beyond what you think you have to feel, beyond the constraints and the constructs of the body that are identified in a very specific way. So really, it's not the body, it's the image. It's the projection. So because the belief is understanding itself through pain. If I believe that I'm always in pain, or I believe that I must feel pain, or I believe that pain comes from this, or I believe that pain comes from that, then I'm going to be projecting that reality, and my subconscious is always going to be holding a piece of that reality captive, because there's something there that I'm not willing to let go of, because I still feel like I need to do things in a certain way, right? So not even just this experience. This is actually everything but this experience. Everything that happens from this point outward. If anyone goes into the space of choosing, of having the awareness and the understanding that the choice doesn't matter, but still choosing as if it matters, then you give yourself permission to be in a state of control, which means you are then controlled by anything you hear, by anything you see, by anything you feel. You're controlled. It's very easy to sway you. You can receive and hear something, and you'll feel very, very connected to it because you're easily controlled. And that's because you're in a space of control. The sovereign seat, the seat of power, is not persuaded and it's not swayed. It's you can't control it, and it doesn't need control. It doesn't need anything. It's free. Um, it's authentically free. It doesn't identify with anything. And because it doesn't identify with anything, it cannot be held captive in any space. It cannot be fragmented through any point of time. But you must be willing to meet yourself there and to consistently reside within the seat of power, not just a seat of power, and projecting yourself and choosing this because of this. I choose this because of this. I choose this because of this. And therefore, you're enacting judgment on your reality as the reality, which means you are not just the reality, but then you're acting out the judgment upon yourself. And so it's very interesting, the paradox that people remain trapped in. They're asleep, but they believe they're free. Or they don't believe, I don't say they believe they're free, but they believe that they have a choice. And that doesn't mean that you're being controlled when I say that. It actually is a great place of freedom. When you're controlled by the choice, but you have an opportunity to realize that you don't have a choice. It's a very big point of power reclamation, because you don't have to choose. You don't have to have something that's happening because of what you choose. You get to choose, but you get to experience, but that's it. Like, there's nothing else there. You're not going to feel a certain way because you choose something, but because you believe that, you will. If I believe that me knowing something is going to provide me with a feeling, then I will directly provide myself with a projected reality that will allow me to experience it as if it's real, because I'm the reality. So therefore, Everything is available. So if you believe that your choice carries the weight of your seat of power, then you will always be moving through polarity. You will always be moving through light and light and shadow, because your seat of power is directly correlated to what you believe you should do, what you believe you shouldn't do, what you believe you should feel, what you believe you shouldn't feel. It's directly correlated to, if I choose this, I feel better. If I choose this, I feel worse, right? So you are the reality, and then you take that reality and you attempt to enact it in a way that elicits control. And the only reason why we say lower reality is, I feel like people have they placed a very heavy weight on 3D. 3D isn't bad. It's just simply, it's how you're viewing. That's all it is. The 3D is simply just a dimensional viewpoint. That's all it is. So when you look in the mirror, you think you're seeing what's right in front of you. That's 3D. If you cover the mirror with a blanket and you have someone with a camera come out directly beside you, the mirror is going to pick up on the reflection of the camera. The camera is going to reflect back to you the image in the mirror, and you're going to see an infinite gateway of reflections. That's the fourth dimension, the mirror dimension. But you can only see it if you have another vantage point. But you have to be willing to cover the image in order to see it. Because 3D, you see straight on. You can only see what's out here. Project. You can only project what's out here. You can only project what's right in front of you, which means you're not seeing anything else around you. We think that when we look in the mirror that we're seeing a reflection of ourselves right now, but we're not. We're seeing a reflection of ourselves through every dimension, through every moment of time and space. Mirrors are gateways. They've always been gateways. So anything that creates a reflection is a gateway. And this is why surfaces were prepared in such a way to be reflective in ancient times, if you will, which ancient times are right here, right now, but just as a point of reflection, because they provided an opportunity to connect to the gateways, which then reflected beyond the dimensional awareness of looking straight on. So when you're always looking straight on, what I speak to my group space all the time is that you can't see the forest for the trees. You're in the image, you're in the projection of the image, and all that you're aware of is the projection of your own image. That's all you're aware of. And when that's all you're aware of, you can't see beyond it. And a lot of people have encapsulated themselves in the belief of the image, even in relationship to other cosmic aspects. There's still a projected reality image to that, because everything is, if you are aware of yourself as reality, then nothing else exists beyond your awareness, which means you don't need to have these connections of the cosmic in the way that you think you do, because those are also extensions of the higher. And because anything that's in a physical vessel is an extension of the higher. So if you come into the higher and you're aware of yourself as the higher, then you no longer require the alien or the cosmic vehicle to transmit anything, because you're the one that's transmitting it. So you can access it. You can access all of it through this vehicle, through this vessel, which means it's going to call everything in from those extensions, because those extensions are simply you playing the game with yourself. So once you become aware of yourself as yourself, then you no longer require those extensions of reality anyways. Doesn't mean you don't still get to play it, but I'm just for reference purposes, you don't need it. So therefore you beat the game, if you will, and you have the understanding. Now, for me, I've experienced myself in a space where I've realized, and this has also come through some of the sessions, the one-on-ones that I provide, where they have also been able to see that you don't have to be here in this reality. You don't have to be extended. You get to leave this reality because you're the reality. You get to leave the design whenever you want. You don't have to die because there's no such thing as dying. You don't have to reincarnate because there's no such thing as reincarnation. It's a version, it's a layer of reality that holds your image trapped there until you wake up, until you remember. That's the remembering. Everyone thinks that, oh, well, I'm aware that there's other cosmic beings and I'm aware of my past lives. And that's part of the game. That's part of the game. So the fourth dimension is a mirror dimension. It's seeing yourself as all images. And then above that comes fifth dimension. Fifth dimension is where you are the higher self and higher. So if you begin to pass through the gateways of the fourth dimension, then you're seeing yourself as all images, as all extensions, and then you rise higher. And should you so choose at any point in time, you can return yourself back into yourself. You don't die. You just move through the cord. You just consistently keep pulling yourself higher and higher. I experience this myself in these activations. The higher I go, the less I am connected to my body. And the only thing that's holding me connected to my body is the awareness that I am guiding others in the connection of the feeling and the realization. But I can leave the reality anytime I choose. I would just continue to ascend upwards until I pull my astral and my etheric up, passing through all layers of reality, as we go through the Buddhic and the Atmic and everything else, which is automatically being experienced through me and the activations anyways. So I'm experiencing myself on all planes of reality here right now. I don't need to go anywhere else. I don't need to go into those realities because I am the reality. So that's my invitation to each of you, is to allow yourself to hold the capacity for that understanding, to hold the capacity for that experience. Of course, if you would like to go into and be guided into that connection further, you can book a one-on-one with me, and I would be more than happy to open, expand, and co-create with you, because you do have the capacity of experiencing yourself fully through the cord as the higher self. And all I'm simply there is just the mirror of you. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just reflecting back to you what you are. So you are empowered the entire time. And everything that is reflected through me is simply an invitation for you to be aware of yourself further. So it's really interesting how we have designed everything. And that's the paradox of the reality to begin with. Many people remain trapped in the paradox because they believe that they have to choose something. They believe they have to clear karmic lines. They believe that they have to clear karmic choices because there is a belief in karma to begin with. Karma is a layer of reality. And that layer begins to shift as the collective consciousness begins to wake up, and the collective consciousness begins to activate a higher access point of its own karma, its own choices, until it realizes that the choice doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter, because you've been the one that's animating you the entire time. So when you have an opportunity to allow yourself to be in full experience of this, then there is nothing that limits you, my dears. Nothing. There is no feeling. There is no experience. There is no belief. There is nothing that holds you captive. I mean, you get to experience the layers of reality that are goddess and God, the Ra, the Isis, the Magdalens. Those are all, but those are images. We have to keep in heart that anything that is incarnate in an image has the capacity to release itself from the image, which means it doesn't remain trapped in the image. And if we believe in those, in the power that they hold, then they would not be in the image and maintaining the image. Only we maintain that image for them because we believe. We believe in it. This is what was expressed as worship, right? When you worship an image, the message of Yeshua was to release the worship of images, not because you're like judged by it if you do. Obviously, you get to experience it because even Yeshua is held as an image. The masters are held as images. So it was a message of recognition that you are a seat of power, a image, you are a belief, you are a god or a goddess, you're a master, you're a person, you're a human. Those are all seats of power. You're also none of those things. None of them. And you're not defined by them, and you don't belong to them unless you believe you do. And many people are trying to belong to the groups of power, the seats of power. The Magdalens, the Raws, the Isises, all of these things are seats of power. And you get to. It's a beautiful thing. You get to. But remember, my dears, that from your higher space, there's no identity. You just exist. And your gateway to your higher isn't dependent on your connection to the images. It's actually your freedom from the image. Those images must die. They must die. Because Yeshua, he was just an incarnate extension. Just like you are, just like I am. No different. Of course, he had a higher walk-in of his consciousness, which gave an opportunity to share in the messages of the channel, which is exactly what the intention was. So he understood and was able to break the reality, or the chain of reality, if you will, which is exactly what we are experiencing now. Well, at least we have an opportunity to. So thank you all. Thank you for being present. Thank you for receiving. And it is always my wish that you are able to free yourself, that you're able to free the chains of the mind, that you allow your mind to be consistently broken and to kill the images that you think so desperately in. It's truly remarkable, the freedom that is available when you're no longer bound by the belief of the images or the belief in power, where even the belief, in closing, just in the tribal warfare, I know a lot of people probably watch the news, seeing the hostages coming home and such like that. We have to remember that there is not one power that is worse or better than the other. Okay? If you believe that one person on one side is more deserving of freedom than the other side, then you're still asleep. You're still controlled by the belief of power, and you're still controlled by the belief that one power is greater than another. You're still being controlled by the mental projection of fear, which has been incorporated through the collective design to hold you there. Even when you watch TV, you're not actually seeing what you think you're seeing, because you're not actually seeing anything. You're projecting everything. And not only that, but what is actually being relayed to you, you do not see, because those in quote unquote government, or those that understand how this reality works, but are still operating through the parameters of something else, are the ones that are putting all the messages in the programs on TV and the movies. Everything is subliminal. It's superliminal. You can't see it. You can't hear it, but you're receiving it, which keeps you asleep. So when you listen to TV, when you watch TV, I'm sure it's even coming through on some, recordings on, YouTube and other places. The messaging is there, but it's most notably there through media. Okay, just be aware. You're being implanted with information, and so if you believe what you hear, then you're also believing in something that you yourself are projecting, because you are receiving information from the collective hive mind all the time, and the collective hive mind, from those that are still asleep, is still relaying the information of fear. It's still relaying the information of war. It's still relaying the information of imbalance and injustice and persecution, which means if you believe that one side is more persecuted than the other, you're still choosing to believe in the control of power, because all sides are truly free. No side is more deserving. And yes, the tribal warfare is portraying one side being more powerful than another. That's the way it works. Okay, 2. And that I will close. I thank you for receiving, as always. And just to be sure that I have not missed anything, because this happens a lot. 1 second. Okay, I just reset, because sometimes my thing freezes in the comments and I don't see the comments. Those of you guys in my group space are also, there it is. See, there's the comments. I wasn't aware of the comments. Yes, so liberating. Thank you guys. If you don't mind, I would love to catch up with your reflections, because YouTube, doesn't want, it's like, you can't see everything that's there, but I can feel, I knew people were coming through. Yes, absolutely, Samantha. And it is very liberating, Greg. Just seeing yourself, absolutely, Yvonne, and yes, thank you for receiving, Greg. I do feel the authentic freedom is the designation for all of us. To not be afraid to see beyond, and also not being afraid to speak what is beyond, because that truly liberates. As I've gone on this path and through this path of discovery, I have reflected many things along the way, for those of you that have been with me for a while, and everything that I've reflected is what I understood in that moment, but I understand things differently. I don't allow myself to stay stuck in just one part of seeing, because I do feel that if we are not allowing ourselves to be openly authentic because we're afraid of what people are going to think, like, I know I've spoken from a place of ego that's directly spoken about the intensity of ego, right? Like, I mean, because obviously that's the way it works. But the space of freedom and the authenticity of expression is a truly beautiful place, but it's also, it doesn't just happen by what I'm saying here now. It's in every moment. Once this camera is turned off and I go into, and those of you that are in my group, we do this together, right? In every moment we are expressing authentically, but we're also collaborating from a space of, how can we understand our authenticity more clearly, without the bells and whistles, without the noise, without what the collective communities are, which is a beautiful thing. Please understand, I am not saying that there is anything negative to that. I'm saying that we tend to retain a lot of information, and we tend to impersonate, imposter syndrome. We are an imposter of ourselves because we believe in so many things, and those layers have created distorted perceptions, of course, because you're relying on the perception to relay the belief. But there is something beyond that. There is something beyond that, where you are truly free and you just simply get to be present, get to experience. It doesn't matter what you choose. There is no weighted judgment, because if you are the reality and you're not weighing your choices, if you don't expect one choice to do something and provide something more than another, then you're no longer carrying the weight of belief. You do not have to enact. You do not have to enact. You just simply exist. And when you exist, everything flows in, everything flows out. You don't have to do anything. Now, there are the versions of reality where, as by your design, you have dictated the need for you to step in and enact control. It's per your design. You don't have to. Just remember that. It's not you do not have to. There is nothing that you have to do in that reality. Okay. I just want to leave that with each of you. You don't have to. Just allow yourself to go into that version of reality from a free space of, okay, what do I get to choose? What do I get to experience? How do I get to best enjoy this choice? Because that's what it is every single time. Every choice is free. There is nothing on the other side of it. And there is nothing other than your belief that is meeting you from the space of choice. So I thank you all very much. I'm once again going to just be sure by clearing this that I'm receiving everything. And yes, no more noise. And the only way that you can actually hear your channel, just to allow everyone this really quickly, is it's not noise. You don't actually hear anything. And then, from certain levels and layers you hear, because you're still attuned to the senses in that way, where you hear stuff and then you relay what you hear. But when you go high enough to where you're fully connected in, you speak, you are. Therefore, you don't hear anything. But again, there's also a level where people go in, they think they're in, it is silent. There's, again, but just relaying that. So thank you all. Thank you for receiving. I love you guys so much. I'm always so grateful for this experience and to express the libraries of knowledge and the libraries of experience, which is really what it is. It's libraries of experience. So I thank you for receiving. I love you guys, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. So until then, Adonai.